Professores de universidade que são especializados em fascismo estão se mudando dos Estados Unidos e mudando para o Canadá, gente. Essa história é bizarra. Você imagina, quem sabe do que tá acontecendo tá indo embora. Então você já viu, né? Aqui vai ter que ser com aquela legendinha básica, tá, gente? Mas o vídeo é curto.
Alright, y'all, so forgive me for the quality of this video. I searched far and wide to try to find the original, but it looks like it was not posted by MSNBC. But somebody on Twitter was able to just record it with their phone on the screen. And the segment is important enough where I want you to see it. We're going to discuss in a second one of the most eye-opening things that has occurred within the past few months. We now have some of the top authoritarianism and fascism experts, academics, professors. They fled the country. They took a look around and they went, I know where this goes. It's sort of my field of expertise. And so, man, is that a red flag if I've ever seen one in my life. Okay, so let's watch. Here's a dire warning delivered to Rachel Maddow on MSNBC about the current state of affairs that we're witnessing.
Used over and over again and in country after country around the world. Can you help us understand what that playbook entails and what are the steps?
Sure. This idea of an autocratic legal playbook says, basically, if you're a leader who wants to consolidate absolute power, the most effective way to do that is not through force, but through law, by finding and exploiting legal loopholes in the constitutional system, and then using those loopholes to essentially knock down and demolish all of the independent democratic institutions that are designed to limit executive power. So, the classic strategy is to capture the courts, right? Knock out the independent arbiter of law that's supposed to keep the president within legal guardrails. To do things like capture the public bureaucracy, right? Take over government legal offices that are designed to be independent from the president and to keep the president within constitutional guardrails. And now we're seeing the other big move that is under the autocratic legal playbook, which is to take down the legal profession altogether, right? To start at the top with these apex law firms and to disable them from representing individuals in court with interest against the government, and thereby really destroy the adversary system, because the adversary system is premised on everyone being able to select their own lawyer and have their day in court.
In diagnosing what Trump is doing along those lines and recognizing the way that same playbook has been used in other countries and at other times, you essentially say that diagnosis, our ability to see the way it has worked in other places, should help us in terms of coming up with a response or a defense to it. You say that American lawyers and law firms should learn the autocratic legal playbook in reverse, basically to be able to anticipate it, to be able to proactively fight against it. In practical terms, what would that look like?
Well, I think in practical terms, right now, they're way out ahead, right? I mean, they've run far out ahead of the opposition. I think people are starting to catch up to the idea that this is actually systematic, it's coordinated, it's targeted, it's well thought out. And we need to do the same to protect democracy and to prevent the playbook from being successful in this particular case. I think that what learning the playbook in reverse looks like now is to really think ahead, right? To put yourself in the mindset of an authoritarian leader like Trump, and to think ahead at what steps they want to take and where they want to go. And I think if you look at autocracies that have consolidated around the world, and people talk a lot about Hungary because a lot of the Trump lawyer team has studied Hungary quite intensively. If you look at what happens in the future, right, a few steps ahead, in every single one of these countries, the important point to remember is that in none of them do leaders do all the things that Trump is doing, take aim at all of these independent institutions, and then just walk away and call it an election. Right? They're doing this to stay in power permanently. And so in practical terms, what we need to be doing now is to think about what it would look like for Trump to try to stay in power permanently and to start to protect the democratic institutions that will prevent that from happening.
How's that for a warning? How is that for a warning? I want everyone to consider what it means that 3 of the top scholars of fascism living in the United States have simultaneously decided to leave the country. American professors have begun to leave U.S. universities and move to Canada. Renowned historian Timothy Snyder and his wife and colleague Marcy Shore have decided to leave Yale University and the United States to move to the University of Toronto and teach at the Monk School. The couple specializes in the history of Eastern Europe, drawing parallels between fascist regimes and the current political situation in the United States. Their example was followed by philosophy Professor Josh Stanley, who specializes in the study of fascism and propaganda. In 2021, Snyder, Shore, and Stanley co-taught a course at Yale called Mass Incarceration in the Soviet Union and the United States. All 3 attributed their decision to leave Yale to the political climate in the States. So, Project 2025 calls for something called the Unitary Executive Theory. And the idea behind that is we want to make the president more like an emperor, more like a dictator. So, for example, independent agencies in the government that are part of the executive branch, you need to strip them of their independence and put lackeys and loyalists in those positions. Make sure that these people follow your ideology, follow your rules, follow your commands. So the DOJ is now just an arm of the Trump administration when in theory it's supposed to be independent, right?
DOJ é tipo a PGR.
Now you have even career bureaucrats who just do the technical work. You dot the I's, you cross the T's, you make everything, make sure all the actual work of government gets taken care of. Even they are being replaced by total party hacks and insiders. Zero competence among any of these people. But the whole point is unending loyalty to Trump. And when you have a situation like that, you're not going to have people who, like in the first term when Trump wanted to invoke the Insurrection Act to go after the George Floyd protesters, that would be deploying the U.S. military in our own streets against our own people. The generals held him back. They were like, look, we don't do that here. We really don't use our military against our own people. Mm-hmm. Police can handle issues domestically, right, but we're not going to deploy our own military in our own streets. Now there's nobody around him to say, you're not doing the Insurrection Act. Now there's nobody around him to say, hey, running for a third term, that's unconstitutional. It's clearly unconstitutional. You can't really do it. Now he's surrounded by people who are willing to bend any rule, break any law, violate any norm in order to have him get his way, right? With the military, he did a purge of the military. Now it's only sycophants and loyalists at the military. He's got a drunk criminal who's the Secretary of Defense right now. Total yes man. So I need you to understand where this leads. This is why he's writing executive orders against law firms. He doesn't want any law firms to represent his opponents. He wants to make them cower in fear and never challenge him.
Então, o Trump ele está forçando os escritórios de advocacia a não defender os adversários dele. Olha que loucura, gente. Tá fazendo pressão.
Right? Every single step of the way here. What he's doing with the media. Waging lawsuits against the media and trying to make them pay him out of court, trying to effectively silence them, make them rethink being critical of his administration, right? All of this is from the autocratic playbook. All of it. Every last bit of it. And even though these people are fucking idiots and morons, as we know for sure, they're also following a plan. This is all planned out. It's all detailed. And they're not skipping a beat. And now we're already at the phase where they're rounding up legal permanent residents based on their speech and deporting them or sending them to an El Salvador slave labor camp. I don't think you truly understand. We are already there. The fascism is already here. It's not theoretical. We're not on the slippery slope. We are down that bitch. And so when you see that the top experts in fascism in this country are like, peace, bitch, I'm out. What does that mean? What does that say? It says exactly what you think it does. So I know people have this default thing in their mind, like, it wouldn't happen here. It can't happen here. It's fucking happening here. It already happened. We're already there. And now the question is, how do you fight back against it? Because you have the Democratic Party, which is pathetically spineless and weak in the face of this fascism. I don't see them talking about Trump illegally wanting to steal Greenland or Panama or own Gaza, right? They're not going after him for his foreign policy. They haven't said much about Mahmoud Khalil and people being disappeared for their free speech, right? So what the fuck are you going to talk about? Like, what are you going to talk about? So the Democrats are way, way weak. Now the legal profession is crumbling right in front of our eyes. The media is crumbling right in front of our eyes, right? What's left? All that's left is the people. All that's left is the people. And the only way we get out of this is through fucking solidarity and strength. It's the only way. Can't be every man, woman, and child for themselves. It can't be. It can't be, because then they win, right? We have the numbers. They have the money, the power, and the organization. The numbers will beat that, but it has to be in solidarity. It has to be standing up together in solidarity. We have to draw these big, bright red lines and say, not on our fucking watch, bro. Not on our watch. And so, yeah, it's bad. It's bad. They should have sent a chill down your spine when you learn top fascism experts are fleeing this country. That says exactly what you think it says. Hey, y'all, do me a favor and...
Exatamente, gente. Então agora, gente, quem quer sair desse país sou eu. Socorro, socorro.